we are officially on, not live yet, but, taping as of right now. It's a new episode of the Right Here podcast with Hudson Harrison. He's a national finalist wrestler oh man, I'm drawing a blank.
Mercyhurst.
Mercyhurst, a D2 program in Erie, Pennsylvania. He placed second. He is a coach at General McLean in, Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. He's a awesome friend of mine, a good person. He always dresses nice. His hair always looks good, and he is our guest currently on the Right Here podcast. So say hi, Hudson. How are you?
Hi, Sam. Nice to talk to you again, and I appreciate you having me on this program. I really enjoy. I love what you're doing. Obviously, for the sport of wrestling, not that many people can compete or be in sports right now, but 24/7, every single day of the a year, just keep wrestling, keep talking about it, and it's a great window into the world of wrestling, and also people that I admire, people that you've admired, and you've asked some really good questions and just piqued my curiosity into what goes through a lot of people's minds, what their experiences are, and it just kind of just good food for thought for anybody that's curious about the sport of wrestling.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate that. And how have you liked this podcast so far? Because I saw that Facebook status about Yanni and stuff. And
Yeah.
obviously, I appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, I like with most people there's different levels of people that enjoy the sport of wrestling, but if you have a Flow account, most likely who you're watching, and you invest in that type of programming to be able to watch these people and just to see them compete at a different type of level, but also see that, I guess, behind the headgear, even if it's freestyle and you don't wear headgear, but like just to see a little bit more of the person. There's a human being in all of us, but just that human aspect is really unique. I think the last one that I just kind of I backtracked a few, Hayden Hidley that you were talking to, and it was just very interesting because, when you and we coached and we were at the regional, Mifflin was pretty, they were decent. They were pretty good. I think that we had a really good team and they had a really good team as well. But just hearing kind of it's a big school district area wise, but didn't really know that it was that small of a town, but just hearing a lot of his background, upbringing, just learning is this sport for really too many more people other than people that live in a blue collar farm town. And my sort of background with me and my brothers, you and your brother, and obviously with the Hidley family, it's just very interesting to hear. And a few times that you've even touched on, how many degrees are you separated from the next wrestler / athlete? And it's very interesting. One thing I've appreciated is the connections, the plugs that you get, or anybody in general gets. Like if you need to talk to somebody or somebody from some point, and able to make that connection. And once you talk about wrestling, you're speaking the same language, really.
Yeah,
at that level.
honestly, Hayden talks so well too, man, and just hit on so many points, not in the sport of wrestling, but in just life in general. It was fantastic. Yeah. He had talked well.
Yeah, he did, and it's something incredible too. Even like Ethan Laird and some other people, and I know what caliber of a competitor / student athlete people are, and that's also quite incredible to actually hear that they try to excel more than just their own sport or anything that they try to do, even like the non-competitive stuff like run and gun. We're very competitive, right? And even in being, you're still putting your name on that. Don't be a one-trick pony. Try to be good in you only get one shot at life. Try to be good. Learn as much as you can, even if it's the bare minimum. Try to expose yourself, and anything that you try to do well at. So it's interesting for him anyway to kind of hear back some of his the accolades, obviously, and being the commencement speaker for his for the as a senior athlete or for the athletes that year. Just picking the right guy that might have the right things to say. So it's just interesting hearing what other people have to say.
Yeah, and honestly, and I think I have touched on this on the podcast here. I like think sometimes, us wrestlers, want to win so badly that, our mindsets are just so focused on just the sport of wrestling and doing, whatever it takes to win. And then maybe, forgetting, about their schoolwork or their family or their outside stuff, when really wrestling is honestly just a phase of life. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes us athletes, forget that. But obviously, wrestling has shaped us in to the person that we are now. So yeah, that point was solid.
Yeah. Just even just listen to a few of yours. I mean, I'm pretty excited. I'm clearly excited to be on. I will say this humbly, you have a lot of good people on these so far, and I've seen that list of other people that you have coming up, and I'm
Mhm.
humbled. I know that there's different levels to this,
Yeah.
but that level that you try to aspire to, that level that you always try to hit, um, I don't think I've ever felt any lack of success or regret as long as I was trying to get to that next level. And you're a coach now. I'm a coach now, and anything that I could give back, like, hey, I might not be the number one guy, but I think I got something that can help you to the next level. I can tell you something. I can give you words of encouragement. You're going to have to go out there and get it for yourself.
Mhm.
But it's that continuous cycle back to the next generation coming through. If I can share my experiences, some of the doubts I faced, some of the trials that I went through, I think it would make you better as a human being. And I know you always allude to this a lot. As long as I mean, I've never felt any regret even coaching someone if that ended up being a good human being at the end of the
Mhm.
day. They can take their losses well, they can take their wins well, and people don't remember you losing if you are a decent person. So,
Absolutely, Hudson. Honestly, that is probably the best message that I could spread on this podcast. And actually, I was on a podcast a couple of months ago called the Wrestling Roundtable, and like actually, I said that exact same thing about
mhm,
honestly, being a coach, I want national champions, but if I don't have somebody place at nationals or win nationals, just being satisfied that that person is not only a good wrestler but a fantastic student, a fantastic person, and just will to in I have inspired them to just be a better person in general, and that just means the absolute world to me. So yeah, that was uh, another fantastic point. And this podcast has only been live for 10 minutes now, so nice
yeah,
job.
maybe getting wise in my old age,
Yeah,
but
you are 34 now, or no?
35.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
You
getting
do
up
not
there.
look it, so
That.
congrats.
Thank you.
And also, I would like to point out that Hudson is a father now. His son Henry was born when?
4/20/2020. It was my father's birthday.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
awesome. And
yeah.
obviously, I am going to touch on that story sooner or later. But first, I would like to start off like with, how did you and your brothers start the sport of wrestling, and obviously talk about Hunter, Hayden, Hudson, and then who's the other? Wait,
Hayden and Hadley.
yeah. Oh, Hadley. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
Hudson, Hunter, Hayden, Hadley, and
that's
wait.
me, Hudson. We have four boys.
Oh yeah,
Four
four.
boys,
Okay,
two sisters.
four. Yeah.
It's easy to keep track of. Yeah, Heidi, Hazel, Hunter, Hudson, Hayden, Hadley. I mean,
Hazel.
that's
Yes, I was
yeah,
forgetting
Hazel.
about Hazel and Heidi. Right.
Yeah,
So
Hazel
there's
and Heidi. Yeah,
six siblings.
yeah. They're the two oldest members of the six-member family, and
Yeah.
well, my closest kin anyway. Sport of wrestling, really weird. I don't know. I know a lot of people. I think sometimes wrestlers get a bad rap for either one, not being good athletes, like multi sport, or they're just really good at everything.
Yeah.
Right? They can't miss. And growing up, my dad, I had absolutely no idea that my dad wrestled.
Really?
I didn't. Nope, not until like junior high that I looked up to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish you got to meet him. He was a great guy. It's been what 8 years, 2012, that he was unexpectedly taken away. But when he was with us, he was very good at everything. It didn't matter what we were doing when we were playing football, baseball, frisbee, basketball, volleyball, tetherball. We played everything. We went hard all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when wrestling came up, it came up in a really, really weird time. I was in first grade, and my older brother Hunter was in third grade. And my dad, I knew that my dad knew how to do sports. I mean, he taught us. I mean, you're a sponge when you're little. Your dad knows how to do everything. You don't know if there's anything that you don't know that he's not teaching you, because he literally has every answer. And so when wrestling came up, it wasn't us asking about wrestling. I have two older than Heidi and Hazel cousins, Corey and Clay Kilburn. Now, Corey is a professor. He's a doctor at Embro University. I don't know if you've ever had him. He's
Talk to him in the wrestling room.
yeah, he's very, very bright, very friendly, very outgoing. I don't know if he would not do anything for anybody. Like, he is the guy to go to. He's a good person, but he's my cousin,
Mm-hmm.
and he also does he's a black belt in judo, and he's a multi-linguist, philanthropist. He's everything.
Yeah.
But when he first started getting involved, another person that, there's different levels to everything. You're trying to better yourself. And where do you go? Do you go to people with knowledge? I have very little success compared to other people, but if someone that's starting out, I would be glad to help them out. So my cousins, when they were starting, they were told by other people that their coach wasn't really giving them enough time or really helping them, because they were very ill experienced. So they came to my dad. And when my dad started working with them, he saw that there was youth tournaments. Had absolutely no idea there was youth tournaments for that young. And he asked my brother and I whether or not we'd want to do something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, yeah, let's wrestle. Let's do some moves. Hunter and I got 1 week of wrestling practice in the living room, in front of the fireplace, on carpet. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, you're roughhousing. It was fun, but
yeah.
Learned 2-3 moves. I learned a double leg. You learn what you're not supposed to do: lock hands, bite, cry, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I knew a double leg, I knew a half Nelson, and I knew a standing Peterson. That was it. And when you're scared and when you don't really know what you're doing, you kind of cling on to what you do know. And I can remember to this day running the half Nelsons and just like clinging on to dear life, because I had absolutely no idea, if this move doesn't work, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter and I ended up, our first tournament at my cousin Corey and Clay also wrestled. I was in Harbor Creek, and Hunter and I both got second place. And we got the trophies that are still the biggest trophy, tallest trophy that I own now. And I thought, wow, geez, this is pretty cool. So I was hooked. The thing's still half as tall as me. I don't know. It's at my mom's house. But Hunter and I were kind of hooked at that point, and we continued to kind of just work out in our living room. And then the youth parents came to my dad, approached him for Embro Youth Wrestling Club, and asked if he would help coach. And then from help coach to be the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how we got our foot in the door. Hayden, my younger brother, is a year underneath me. The following year, Hayden joined, and quickly after, Hadley, being 3 years in grade level behind me, he started really early too. Like, we were all doing it, and we kind of just gravitated to that. And it's really weird, because I think once you start off I can't say that wrestling, you can be successful at wrestling right away, but I do think that it changed the dynamic when we had a little bit of success in the beginning. Like, oh, we can really do this. We can win trophies. Like, there was a reward at the end of it. That wasn't really the reason why I stuck with it, but it was a reason why we got involved at that point. And then just being competitive. That's how I feel like we stayed involved. I mean, my brothers were my playmates. So where did we go after school? We went to wrestling practice. Yeah. And it wasn't, what do we do, 4 months a year that wrestling was? We didn't wrestle year round. I don't think we ever did that until after we became too old for it. But that's how we really got involved. My cousins approached my dad about teaching them some wrestling, and we were there. And my dad says, "Do you want to wrestle some tournaments?" Yeah. We got in. And winning's contagious.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is, because I started at like age 4 or 5. How about you? Like, like that
Yeah, it would have been,
age?
about fourth grade, and so like
Oh, really?
I'm an '80s baby. So when I was in first grade, it's really hard for like my teachers to understand what I was doing because in the early '90s, it was the WWF at the time was really
Yeah.
big. Every teacher thought, "You do wrestling? Oh, that's not right. Your parents allow you to do that stuff?" And I had no idea. Well, I'm just simply hitting a double leg, and it's pretty harmless. Then I started hearing about chairs and bats and stuff. I'm like, I didn't watch WW. My parents didn't let us watch that stuff, so I had absolutely no idea to reference. And then once I saw it, I'm like, how ill-informed can an elementary school teacher be of the sport of wrestling? And how little do they know about our sport that we're in?
Yeah.
So that was a first. So yeah, 4 years old. Um, and it kind of so you started young too. It kind of grinds my gears sometimes when someone starts in ninth grade. I'm not gonna lie, and for a lot of reasons. Now you have ones that like you're kind of like, man, it's gonna take you a little bit more than 2 years. I mean, you can get into it if you put enough into it, but there's a lot of muscle memory stuff you got to develop, and you
Mhm.
really can't really be happy about the guy that shows up in ninth grade and places in 10th.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of weird things. I mean, good for you. You did it. I did the long path. I don't know if you've ever, like, when you felt like you met success, but I don't think I really met success. Like, I
With
won
wrestling.
matches. Like, when did you start winning?
Oh man, well, in my eyes, in my perspective, like answering that question, I would honestly say like my junior or senior year of high school, just because
Hmm.
I wasn't satisfied with like going like 35 and 15 my freshman year of high school, or like I just wasn't satisfied. And then my senior comes along, I go 45 and 1, and like finally I like felt like, man, I'm actually good at wrestling now. So,
Yeah.
man, honestly, I would probably say my junior or senior of high school. How about you?
It's hard because, like, if it wasn't for my brothers, I would have quit wrestling a long time ago.
Really?
Uh, third grade came around. I had a bad sophomore year. My second grade year, I just wasn't winning the matches. You go an age group. It's a big difference between one group to the next group.
Yeah.
You can go 6 under, and then suddenly you're up another. It's different, and you can't get away. It just things change, and I didn't have a philosophy of like, hey, short-term pain, long-term gain. This is you're building a foundation right now.
Hmm.
I think we live in such a society right now where people want that instantaneous gratification. Like, hey, listen, I put in a lot of hours into this sport. I should be good at it. And
Hmm.
I felt like I was doing the same thing. I was the coach's son. I felt like there's more pressure on me, and my brothers were winning, and I wasn't winning.
Hmm.
And that was hard to deal with too. And my friends that I started making friends with in high school, and a few of them actually like came over to the dark side and started wrestling. They played soccer. I wanted to play soccer. I don't really care for the sport right now, but at the time I wanted my friends, and I felt, well, that's the best place to do community is
Yeah.
in the practice arena. So in third grade, I really wanted to leave the sport, and my mom's convinced me that when you come home from school, who you gonna play with? Because your brother's gonna be at practice. And I'm like, it's a good point. She goes, well, finish this season and let me know how you feel next year.
Yeah.
Another year. And back then, Junior Olympics, PJW, that didn't start until you were like 13 and 14 only.
Right.
Now they start at like 4. So there was actually a postseason to the sport when I hit junior high, and I don't think I actually cared about winning until we got cheerleaders, and it makes a difference. I mean, for your peers to watch you and for you to feel like other people other than yourself are seeing your progress and seeing that you are good at the sport, and a very quiet, reclusive person like I feel like you were in high school. And
Hmm.
I didn't. The only place I really felt like I came out of that shell was wrestling. So if you really wanted to see that I was passionate about something or there was another level to me, you didn't see that in the classroom. I wasn't loud. I wasn't boisterous. I'm a lot of those things now, but I was not then. And it's very quiet. Let the scoreboard do the talking. I just that's the you put the work in the practice room and stuff like that. But I don't think I really cared about winning. I did care about winning. I don't think I really took an actual step into winning until I was in junior high. And it's funny because I always say this. I think parents now might not know that I didn't win very many matches when I was that young. And so like don't put a lot of weight on your kid not winning. you're running them to practice, you're doing the booster stuff, you're doing everything you can do as a parent. Just facilitate an opportunity. That's
Yeah.
all you can really do. And when I can't even say winning comes later. It's the lesson comes. And if you stick out the long game, you're going to be a lot better off.
Yes, and I wish some more parents and family members thought that same way. Is that it's not about just winning. It is about developing a good person, and like
Mhm.
raising a good person, and like making sure that they are comprehending the lesson that wrestling is teaching them. So yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
As an athlete, you don't. It's hard to understand the lesson until maybe it's starting to see the later end of it.
yep.
Um,
That's a
I see a lot of it, and I don't know if you see it too, because this is half the time I love watching different people do interviews, different flow or whatever. When
mm,
they interview somebody and actually seeing how humble someone could be, even though they might have the most stress on their shoulders, and just being able to bury that and how they handle themselves as a human being, and it's just something really to emulate and look up to. But that's that's always what you try to aspire to, and also try to motivate other people to kind of feel and sense. It's a sense of purpose anyway, but you also feel complete if you are a bit humble, and the
yeah.
sport will humble you really quick. um, there's no, I don't think there's a sport like this. I think there's a few others that some people have mentioned about. It's a very individual sport. um, it's you out there, and you can't really blame a coach. You can take responsibility for what you can do to improve, and it's very, very humbling to get to the next level or be successful in any degree. You got to be a humble person in order to get to that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on once again, because I've always seen like Hayden Hidley or like Yanni or Nathan Tomasello or Nick Piccinini or even Sean Russell, like is just these higher caliber athletes, and like people that I didn't think that I was as talented as, but like then talking to them on the podcast, and like all five or six of those guys being as humble as they are, like it's just nice hearing from them, and that they are people too, and it
Hmm.
was like just nice to like talk wrestling, and like Yanni, especially because that dude has already accomplished so much, and like just hearing him just talking so down to earth, so humble, so like it was just an awesome experience, really.
Hmm. And if you don't follow the sport of wrestling, you see some of the stuff that Yanni's been able to do,
Yeah.
even in a beat the streets. I mean, I mean, I've heard it from a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches say some good things. Be a class act, but act like you've been here before.
Hmm.
And that was been a big thing for me. I don't care what you win, what you do. Everyone knows what a celebration looks like. Man, if you can keep that lid on, and just that, there's so much power in keeping the lid on and shaking hands and saying, "Hey, good match."
Yeah.
When anybody else could just blow off, and I don't know if anybody even, like, I'm sure, like, if he has coworkers someday and be like, "Hey, I heard you did the sport of wrestling," and be like, "Yeah, I did it for a little bit." If you don't know, you don't know. And I think he
Yeah.
could be that kind of guy that's that humble. Like, okay, I've been some places, I've done some things,
Yeah.
and even being able to, I know more people can name good or really successful football or basketball players, but there's some that just have done some stuff that really, really excite me when I get to see them, compete, and then at the end of the day, be humble.
Yeah, for
Burrows being,
sure.
I don't know, maybe Burrows can come out with some books eventually, and just
Oh,
really,
I
continue to
would
inspire.
love to read his books, because man, that and honestly, each podcast, episode so far, somehow or some way, that name always comes up, Jordan Burroughs. And not only is Burroughs a fantastic wrestler, but man, that guy is a awesome guy, on and off of the mat. And his like posts on social media, like Facebook and Twitter, are just outstanding. And I mean, that guy is honestly just a fantastic person. And man, I just wish us wrestlers could live to inspire like Jordan Burroughs, man. 'Cause
Mhm.
awesome.
It's nice to think that you and I, we need people to look up too. I don't know if anybody will ever look up to me. I'll be a mentor in some capacity, but to still look up like he's a figurehead, and socially he keeps his head on a, he is very straight and narrow. I know what I expect out of him. If I find out all this other stuff about his personal life, I don't think I'd be shocked. I just really think he's a genuinely good dude, and some of the things
Yes.
he says. And I think anybody has a past and stuff. It's who you want to be in life, where you are in your journey. When these guys find God and find their purpose, I think that they have more of a set pattern for themselves and what their role is to everybody else that looks up to them. But yeah, definitely another person I really enjoy even hearing and listening to.
Yeah, and I would love to have him on the podcast, but I mean that's a chance and a half. But Hudson, let's talk about your high school career. Two-time
Yeah.
state placer or just once?
No, one-time state placer.
Yeah. And
One-time state placer.
fifth, right?
No, sixth.
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 And
Um,
was your senior at GM?
yeah, my senior year,
Right. So yeah, just
Pennsylvania.
talk to us. Your freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior at GM.
Yeah, like just like anybody else, I think my high school and my college career had a very similar pattern. Obviously, I struggled freshman, sophomore. I had shining moments, but then locking it down. You can beat state placers all year long.
Yeah.
It's that tournament. It's that dang tournament where everyone's going for blood, and you can be very closely yoked. I mean, you could be good at all time, but was I peaking early or was I peaking later? And then once you finally hit that senior year, like your senior year, 45-1, I think you said.
Yeah.
But this is it. You are essentially one of the oldest high schoolers. You're going against younger kids. It's not like, oh, hey, I'm 14 wrestling an 18-year-old. He's shaving. You are the one of the older, bigger, stronger, more developed. You can't screw this up as a senior. I mean, there's shortcomings. There's a lot of unsung heroes that don't place in the state of Pennsylvania, or maybe even other states, but very good wrestlers. Me being AAA, I've had some very, very close calls. A three-time District 10 runner-up. I'm a very good runner-up. My entire career, I am the best runner-up you'll ever see. Three-time Cool City finalist, never the champion. Just always making the finals. And then up until my senior year of college, make the finals, and still can't get that one either. But I'm very good at making the finals.
Yeah.
of anything. Freshman year, it was I was up and down. It wasn't until I found my place. Being a freshman, I came in trying to wrestle 130, and the team captain, regional qualifier, state ranked team captain was at 130. Guess who I tried to eliminate it against as a freshman? And we went back and forth. Another unsung hero. He was never a state placer, but his name was Adam Patterson, one of the toughest dudes that I've ever had to compete against for a starting position in the high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost, and he beat me out. And then I had nowhere to go other than 135. And so I went up there for a little bit, and I won some, lost some, but I was way underweight. You know how it is when you're not you're a freshman and you're also giving up 10 pounds.
Yeah.
I had a coach come to me and said, why'd you keep every single elimination? I keep going back down trying to eliminate Patterson because that didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
And that was just my competitive spirit. Like, why don't you just go to 25? And so I went to 25.
Oh, really?
And I had one of the Brett. Instead of competing in the room for the same spot, we became competitors between a senior and a freshman, and we had a really good dynamic. Freshman, I was a regional qualifier. Back then, it was the elimination was kind of a weird process, but I ended up making to regionals, and I had a bad regional my freshman year. I lost to the champ, and I lost to the third place kid. Mm-hmm. And the third place kid I lost to it was a two. We each had a takedown. He had an escape because I lost him in the wrestlebacks, and he took third and qualified, and I didn't as a freshman.
Mhm.
And being a JO state champ, like it was kind of like it was big. That's like little kid stuff. But it was kind of like everyone wants to see what you do in high school and trying to live up to that standard. Not saying that translating to being a high school state champ, but there are a lot of good kids that go through the junior program. I mean, I think when I was a state champ for PJW, this kid he ended up doing something like third in the world. Coleman Scott, he took third that
Oh,
year.
really?
Yeah, we were in the same 13, 14, not same weight class, but he was part of the whole group picture. And I'm looking through, I'm like, D1 national champ, Olympian, like those are the kids that are standing up to your waist high. And eventually, I mean, you're like, there's some Olympians there, and you ain't kidding. You got Spencer Lee's and other people that come through the same. These little kids are good. They're really good. But everyone expects you to like, hey, how's that translate into high school? But I didn't really work out me that way. I had a sophomore slump where I felt like I was having a good year, and I was beating everybody. Just I didn't have a postseason. I didn't have too many kids that made it to. We weren't qualifying. Only lightweights qualified for states, and I think it was the junior year I lost out on a bout that really could have cost me. I won't go into details. It involves some other stuff, but I kind of there were some balls dropped, and I missed an opportunity. I started off a match that was the placing round to go third and fourth and make it to states my junior year, because I wrestled the state champ in the semifinals, and I was winning until he teched me.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, I was up 3-2, and I've never been tilted for in my life. I was never shown a counter to a tilt, and he tilted me, and he put me down. And I think I've never been tilted really in high school until then. I've never I was like he kept it was new for tilting, cross arm, kept releasing one hand, kept the cross arm, and I just kept going to my back, and I was giving up points left and right. I wrestle back and go for third and fourth. Let's just say we were late to the match, and I ran down while I was still dressing while they were calling my name, and I ended up with I was down 5 in the first period, and I ended up coming back, and I lost 5-7 in a qualifying match to a kid that ended up placing from Bald Eagle area.
Yeah.
Senior year, I don't know. I really feel like I couldn't lose. I was 45, and I ended up being 45. Only had one loss going into postseason,
Oh, really?
and that was to my future teammate / roommate in college, Zach Schaefer. Went to Northwestern High School, and then he went off to Mercyhurst University, which I also joined too. He was my only loss heading into states, and I really didn't struggle with anybody all the way through until I got to the first round. Lost to a kid. I don't even say their names. Is that even that bad? There's some people from certain areas that go to stall camp, okay? And I'm a better tournament wrestler now. I know how to win these matches, but I've never wrestled anybody that did not want to wrestle you until I realized why I was losing postseason matches. Kids aren't trying to score points. They're trying to pick one point. And it blew my mind, and I'm sorry that I was raised in a different school of wrestling and a different school of thought. I learned when I went to college that this happens, that you play the edge, you play the out of bounds, you score when you need to, you stall when you need to. You're not trying to improve. You're not continuously wrestling. I was really well conditioned, and I would just go the distance. You don't pick and choose your bouts. Back then, you start feeling someone coming in at you, you're fleeing the mat. That's after my era. They introduced 2004, I believe they brought in the fleeing the mat call. Yep. When your movement has to be back in. There was like a lot of movement, but he just kind of you just pivot, turn, and the movement goes out, and I shot you out of bounds. But did you really try to work back towards the center? Were you shooting me out of bounds?
Yeah.
So I lost to a kid named Jason Holler my senior year. And dude, if you ever want to wrestle again, Jason, I will. I'm 35, and I'm probably in better shape than I've ever been in my entire life. I would definitely take that match again. So I lose to a kid. I'm the regional champ. I lose to the 4th place kid. Jason Holler, he played the edge of the game. I'm just gonna go through Jason Holler right now. Okay. His path. I don't know how he squirmed his way he made it into the finals. Against a kid.
The state finals?
He made it into the state finals.
Really?
I lost my point, and it's weird if you wrestle in a certain area and they don't know you. I was missed out on a few firemen's dumps, firemen's throws, and out of bounds, dragging my toes, dragging my toes. They're like, no, if there's a lot of momentum, it's already out. He makes his way past another wrestler, and then in the semifinals, there's a kid named it's not Troy Letters, his little brother Taylor Letters.
Mm-hmm.
Very tough dude. He's winning 12-2, and guess who stays down after being slammed? Okay, so
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, one of those. So it was kind of like I was like, the loser of that match got me. So I ended up getting Taylor,
Yeah.
who is a stud who just got ripped off. That my heart went out for him at that point. I was like, this son of a gun. This kid made it best. Both of us. One, he played stall camp. Other, he took advantage of a bad call.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another Embro wrestler, Jared King, was the state champ my senior year.
Yeah.
So that was the kid in the finals. So Jason Holler forfeited to him in the finals. So there was no match being wrestled at 152 my senior year because that kid stayed down. There's a time and a place for it, and if you're not the better wrestler and if you can be a good sport, I don't think I saw that drop as like something that Taylor was doing and purposefully. I just think the kid was a nail.
Yeah.
The kid was a nail. We think we had I wrestled him the next match, and he was fired up. We split takedown and reversal. It was 2-2 going in the second period. I choose down, and I did a very long sit out, and he did not follow, and he just chipped up me and pinned me.
Oh, really?
That was it. Yeah, I didn't get pinned up until that point, and he lit me up, and I wrestled back, and I ended up with a 6th place finish. But I was on my way to like, hey, if I beat this kid, I'm going for 3rd and 4th. That's a kid that I know about stall now.
Yeah.
So that was my senior year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough senior year, like a tough road for you. But yeah, the old call, slam call is a tough call to make. And like actually, I think it was Michigan in the state finals, that slam call, man, that was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw it on Facebook and like that video like had 1,000 comments of their coaches and fans, and this call happens, and like actually the kid stayed down and won a state title, and it was a pretty bad call. But I mean, us being raised that tough mindset, I wouldn't ever think to stay down and then have my hand raised in that fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a few of them. It's it kind of takes away from the integrity of the sport. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that person's all right. If I did something maliciously, hit me for it. I deserve it.
Yeah.
If you are playing hopscotch in the parking lot after you can't continue, or you continue the next match, I have an issue with that. I have a very, very strong issue with that. I have a strong issue with coaches who tell their kid to stay down. I think I've seen a few of them that coaches told kids to stay down to win a match. That one that went viral, Cumberland Valley. I know the coach apologized for it, but within the context of the rules, it honestly, it is the essential. It's the same as flopping in the sport of soccer and drawing a foul in basketball. Yeah. I cannot stand people that go out of their way to get fouled in order to get points or score extra points because you initiate a foul. In wrestling, if I cause you to commit a foul, lock hands, or anything like that, it's unsportsmanlike.
Yeah,
that's not right. And I like a straight across the board. If you really are hurt, you probably are done wrestling for the night and the weekend. You are not done wrestling until the next round. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So that was I guess the small cap of I've had successes. District 10 champ, regional champ, but the state of Pennsylvania is really not forgiving when it comes to postseason. However, I have wrestled runner up from University of Buffalo. I think he went to Shaler. Rendos. I beat him when he was wrestling so he's a state runner-up, but he's a AA. I beat him when I was in college, and then I wrestled the Embro Open. I beat the AA state champ when I was doing the Embro Open.
Yeah.
from the previous year. So I mean, a kid that took 6 just took out the state champ from Double A.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a slight difference between Double A and Triple A. I don't know necessarily. I've lost to many Double A wrestlers as much as okay. My roommate, friend, teammate Zach Schaefer, him and I split. I mean, we should have been teammates at one time in high school. I think we definitely would have shined each other, but I think there's a strong difference between Double A and Triple A. There are good wrestlers in Triple A. I just don't think it's as thickly packed, and that's my bias.
Triple A is very tough because my first season of coaching at GM, because I think that first year we had Owen and Laird wrestling there at States, and just watching that like very first round of the Triple A state tournament, dude, each kid in that bracket is like there to battle. It was the best state tournament I have ever seen. It was wicked tough. But yeah, the whole state of PA, I would vote it and rank it as the toughest state in the country, right?
I would. Well, the statistics would say that. I mean, I would say there's good wrestlers from every state, but it is a pretty thick. There's some really quality wrestlers that will never place in the state of Pennsylvania. I had a roommate in college who made All-American. JJ Zanetta, I'll throw his name out there, but his brother Zanetta's they wrestled for Pitt, but JJ was never a state placer, but he was an All-American. And I know some people that never even qualified for states that they were Double A. I mean, Division II All-Americans. So I mean, it's weird because your story doesn't end after high school. Obviously, you can achieve more when you get into college, but I think the work ethic comes with you. I mean, everyone's at their path. Some people peak, some people don't peak, and some people are still trying to chase it down. But Pennsylvania was pretty tough. And I don't really say that, you know, we talked a little bit before about looking back and having regrets, but
yeah.
I regret not knowing what I do know now, but I don't regret the fact that I gave it everything I had. I don't think I was as well educated in the sport of wrestling. I think I had plenty of people in my corner. I just might have been too thick-headed to take the advice that was given to me. And so being open-minded and being educated, I think that was probably the only thing that held me back from anything as far as success. But giving it 100% every single day, I don't have any regrets. I gave it all I had. And whatever I was able to achieve, that's all I was able to achieve.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's awesome to, look back and say that, I gave it full effort when honestly, I can sit here and say I didn't. So now let's talk about the transition from GM to Mercyhurst. How was it that first year of college and just the like college wrestling atmosphere, the like coaches there at Mercyhurst, the academics wise as well. Just talk to us about transitioning from GM to the Hearst.
Yeah, so a lot of what brought me into Mercyhurst is I was interested in a few local teams and local colleges, Embro University being very close. So you might not know this. I might have alluded to it a few times, but Embro University is very close to John McClain, and we had a lot of good people in my room. So I remember third grade having Bruce Baumgartner come in with all his medals after the Olympics, and everyone's like, "Hey, Bruce, sign this." And I'm like, "Yeah, he was just showing stuff at practice the other night." Like it was just local. I didn't understand being a celebrity or being a high-level athlete.
Yeah.
We had people like Lou Roselli in our room. We had Tony Roby in our room. I mean, they're all very stellar wrestlers. And so, like, I was looking at Embro because that's where we started our practice. I practiced at 5 years old in the room. So I liked Embro. I don't know, like D1, D2, wasn't really interested in what I wanted to compete as. I just wanted to continue to compete at a certain level. And Mercyhurst seemed to be more my style. I knew Zach Schaefer, my greatest enemy throughout wrestling since I was little, and probably my biggest plug because I always felt like if I had someone like that as a practice partner, because we did have a few postseason practices together, and it was pretty rough with each other. But I knew that I needed something like that in order to get to the next level. And he already had some success the previous year at Mercyhurst. And I was like, maybe I don't want to invest myself into going to school to be a wrestler. I want to do well at wrestling. I also want to pursue other things, but I don't want it to be the stressful burden that I am taking on way more than I need to. Because I mean, I was an okay high school wrestler. I mean, I did well. I mean, 110 wins, 41 and 5 my senior year. But that I felt like with Zach, I felt like I knew some people there, and I kind of gotten talking with him after I did the Embro Open, and people were interested. I did take a year off after high school. I got in a motorcycle accident, and I broke my I broke my arm. It's the first time I ever had a broken bone in my life. So I took a year off. Um, I got some good jobs. I worked at UPS unloading not furniture, but freight every single morning, and it was really good athletic work. I mean, I loved working hard, and I felt like I was a peak athletic performance at that time. So I started working there, and I just really wanted to figure out what I wanted to do in life. And after doing the Embro Open, I got to talk with Tony Cipollone, who was the head coach at the time, and the program was fairly new. I think it started in 2002, 2003. Just started Division II.
Really?
And yeah, and so I was very interested and very curious because there were a lot of recruits from local talent that I knew, and some of them were starters. And I'm like, I don't want to say I wanted the easy path, but I also wanted to know that this was possible. I wasn't a starter in high school. I had to earn a spot that made me fit in. But when I went to Mercyhurst, I wanted a place where maybe I could be a part of a team and not just like the third string. I want to be second, first. I want to be a key member on that team. I really like the atmosphere. And when I was going around, and then sometimes things click and they make sense. When I was on campus, there's a professor there. His name's Daryl Georger. He was in charge of the hotel, restaurant, business management program there at the time. And he knew me. Well, once we got introduced, he knew who I was. And he asked me which one was my uncle. And he told me that he was my uncle's roommate in college at Cornell, Tim Harrison. So Georgia was my uncle's roommate, teammate in college when my uncle Tim was wrestled and was a captain at Cornell University. Small world. At that point, he told me what I was interested in going to school for. He says, switch that major, do this. He goes, this is where you need to be. I didn't listen to him, but I liked the fact that, he had some insight of who I was and everything else, and said, some positive things about the campus. And it only takes a few things to really be sold on what you want to do. And I really liked the guys. Trying to make a name for yourself, trying to make a team. There wasn't that weird harshness when you came into a room and people were trying to build you up, because we're still trying to make a name for ourselves. So you want to be part of that, and they wanted you to be successful, and they're going to push you to a level that's going to get you to that, but not to push you out.
Yeah.
And I could handle that. And that's ultimately my deciding factor when I went to Mercyhurst. And I think I ended up with the best group of people in around that 157 to 165 weight class. There's just, I don't know why I even wanted to join. They already had good guys at those weight classes that I planned on wrestling at. Yeah. So that was when I first started at Mercyhurst. It was pretty tough. I got beat out my freshman year. I got beat out by a kid named Will Tedder, and probably one of the best unsung heroes in the practice room. He came from Plum High School in Pennsylvania, and he's just phenomenal. Just as far as a practice wrestler and match wrestler too. He just destroyed me. There was no question. Like, I could go anytime, anywhere. As tired as he gets, he would still find a way to beat me. Really? And I still wanted to eliminate against him because I know I could beat this kid.
Yeah.
I never beat him, but he beat me out. And I think we say this enough about like having depth in the lineup. Mm-hmm. After the second open of the year, he hurt his arm and got the Tommy. What's the elbow surgery? I'm gonna say Tommy John.
Tommy John.
Yeah. Okay. So he had that. He was out for the year. So I'm a backup, and that was my moment to step in. And I really started working. I was already working hard, but I knew I was going to be a good supporting cast member. I knew I was going to be a good practice partner, but I had no idea that I would, eventually have the opportunity to make the lineup. So as a freshman, I stepped in the lineup with a very good person being out, and we had a very stellar team. It was the first year that we had a full year of true seniors, and true freshmen. So this is the first full class we've ever had. I remember coming to this college knowing that we've never beat UPJ.
Yeah.
And when I stepped into the lineup, the first match was UPJ. And
Pittsburgh,
Will Tedder, yeah, Johnstown, PA. They're very good. If I don't remember this dude's name, he was a Mountain Cat. When Division II used to be able to compete in Division I.
Carlson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it what Hasselrig maybe? Carlson Hasselrig. He was the D2 national champ. Wrestled D1. Like has like what 6 titles or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can compete the following week in D1. How awesome! You don't even have to go to D1 school.
And now I'm curious.
Yeah. I'll rant for a second about it, but UPJ. I mean, I could say nothing good. I mean, all the good stuff about their program. They are the elite of the elite. I mean, the All-Americans they produce, and I'm not trying to take away from Mercyhurst, but at the time we're that small guy on the block trying to make a name for ourselves. Yeah. And it was hard for me because Will Tedder beat this kid named Ron Collada, who was ranked third in the nation. UPJ was ranked 4th in the nation as a team.
Oh, really?
Mercyhurst wasn't even on the radar.
Yeah.
And Will Tedder beat him at this Open, at West Virginia Open. And I'm like, oh, wow, we might have a match going on because Will's like one of the top 3 guys in the nation now because he lit him up. And Will got hurt, and I stepped in. And my first college match, I beat this kid.
Really?
I beat the number 3 ranked kid in the nation with the sloppiest move that you would never want to hit on anybody. Okay. You get caught in a front headlock. You control the elbow.
Okay.
I put it on the back of my head. I sit through, rotate hands, arm behind, foot in.
Okay.
And I pulled it off. I pulled it off with 9 seconds, kind of like stopped. I was going to like succeed the match, like holding on to that front headlock, controlling that elbow. I freaking hit it like my life depended on it. Snuck in a leg. I won by 1.
Wow.
And our team, that was my freshman year, our team beat UPJ that night. And I can't say we lost they would have won with Will Tedder. They didn't need me, but they didn't need to give up 6 in that match.
Yeah.
And that was kind of important for me. And from there, I think I have an article. It said I went 10-1 as a freshman. We beat Eastern Michigan, York, Slippery Rock when they had a team, and George Mason the next weekend. We wrestled 4 D1 teams, and we beat them. We beat them all. And I went 4-0 on the weekend. I'm like, oh, we're going. There's still a lot of wrestling left. And had a good season. My freshman year, national duels, I wrestled a kid named Matt Bitts from Minnesota, and I majored him at the national duels. And he placed 3rd in the nation that year, a year that I didn't place. Had tried that move where I sat through again.
Yeah.
On a kid that was from Nebraska, Omaha, and he stuck me. Yeah. He stuck me while I was sleeping. He basically an assassin. I put myself in an assassin.
Yeah.
It's a risky move. It's a risky maneuver, but if you have nothing left and the time's winding down, you've already lost the match. Problem is I was winning the match, and I shouldn't have done it. Yeah. And then I ended up wrestling another kid from Western State, Zach Lee, who All-American that year, and he beat me in the blood round. And short year there. Mercyhurst sophomore year. Do you want me to just keep going throughout the years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mercyhurst sophomore year, going back down to 157. Will Tedder's healthy, and he beats me again. And I'm like, this stinks. Well, one of my best friends, Zach Schaefer, my practice partner's at 165. I ain't going there because it makes no sense. There's no sense in doing it. You know, it's a team. We need some. I don't win that match.
Yeah.
So it was either I beat out Will at 157, or hey, I have a little special guy that wants to stop in real quick. Okay, I'm going to bed. This is little Henry.
Hey, Henry, look at him. Wow. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Henry.
How does it feel being a father?
It feels good. I mean, it's so weird because I get genetics, but this kid looks an awful lot like me, and it's troubling for even my older brother Hunter. Just like that's reincarnation Hudson, you know, or well, he doesn't believe in that stuff, but it's basically, you know, it's my own doppelganger. you know.
Yeah.
He likes watching screens. We don't let him see many screens right now. It's a weird time. He doesn't get out much, so we keep a lot of that away from him. But when he sees one, he gets intrigued by it. Right now, he likes the fan.
Oh, okay.
He likes a lot of fans. But yeah, this is little Henry Lee Harrison.
Henry Lee Harrison. His eyes are nice. Like, is it
They're very blue.
blue? Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
light,
they're very blue.
light
Um,
blue eyes.
he was born. You were at my wedding 9 months after my wedding.
I was, yeah. That's funny.
But July 19th, and he was born April 20th. He shares my my father's birthday, and he shares my dad's middle name.
That is insane. How he shares your father's birthday. Wow.
Yeah,
What are the chances? That is just awesome.
it's a luck. I honestly, after having him, I mean, there's a lot you can anticipate. You know, being a mentor anyway. Like I feel like I could. This is what my next calling is. This is what my next chapter is. I'm 35. I think I'm at the right point. I know I'm at the right point in my life right now for being a father, and it's been challenging. My wife Danielle, you've met several times, or you know well. Okay. She's standing over top of the computer.
Try to make him look at the computer.
Yeah. But she's been very good with him and everything too. My wife, being from Reynolds High School, another very good intermediate school, one of 6 kids like myself, and her family, her brothers wrestled for Reynolds, and her sisters being mat mates for the program as well. So big wrestling family and whatever. But it's only right that two families eventually come together and make little Henry. And so
future state champ, right?
You know, it's funny. I do want him to do whatever he wants. Obviously, I know a lot more about wrestling than I do basketball, but I guess whatever he wants to do it's fine by me. You know, if you start something, finish it, and try to pursue something you want to be passionate about. And if you're not successful, but at least enjoy that journey of failing and succeeding, like to be able to like pull yourself up and continue to strive forward. Even if you don't know how that path's going to lead out, there's something very rewarding about struggling and finding new ways to conquer. Wrestling's awesome because you are against yourself. You're against other people ultimately, but you really have to do some digging, and you got to look at yourself in the mirror and make some personal comments to yourself and be honest. You got to be honest with yourself. And so if he can find something that he wants to be passionate about and pursue, you know, his mom and I, we're definitely 100% behind him.
That is the best answer as a father. That was good. That was good.
And I have 3 brothers that don't have kin yet. So if he wants to wrestle, I think he has some good coaches. And my brothers, my obviously my wife's family, my brother-in-laws, they're also phenomenal wrestlers. So I mean, they'll definitely. If he wants to do that route, he's got some plugs. If not, I really hope people can think of him as a good human being.
Yeah.
And I hope that someday he can inspire other people to pursue what their calling is and what their purpose is. But say goodnight, Henry.
Night. Yeah, because it's what, 8:15 there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just it's kind of weird because like you go through different stages, and right now he just completed his sleep training after 4 months, and he's sleeping nine hours a night right now, and so he sleeps all through the night.
Really?
He eats good, and he sleeps very hard.
He sleeps all the way through the night.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
It's hard at first because when we have technology is amazing now, but I'll be quick about this. Like you can see him on a monitor, and you just like you feel bad because he knows that you're not there. He doesn't smell you, he doesn't hear you, and you don't want him to ever feel like he'll be alone. But he needs to be independent of himself. There has to come a point where he knows that we're not always going to be there for him. That he needs to self-soothe and put himself to sleep. So he's been able to put himself to sleep for the last week now. He's completely done with sleep training, and Danielle's put a tremendous amount of work into him. I've helped as much as I can, and it's amazing how strong a female can be when it comes to those kind of things. And I'm very impressed with him. And it wasn't always easy. it's the consistency and just sticking to it that we are the adult in the situation, and at the end of the day, we're going to win this battle. And I can't even remember when he wasn't easy to deal with, and he's just awesome to deal with. But yeah, little Henry.
Yeah, Henry, man, fantastic child, and the next up and coming of the family of the Harrisons.
Yeah, I just heard actually that Hayden's flying in tonight, and he has not met Henry yet. I haven't seen Hayden since like Christmas.
Now Hayden lives in Virginia.
Hayden's in Oklahoma. He's flying for the Navy.
Okay, so see, because I always mix up Hadley and Hayden, always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hadley's I got two younger. Hadley is the youngest of all of us.
Yeah.
Mullet wearing sometimes.
And
so, yeah,
he's a teacher, right?
Yeah, he's a third grade teacher.
Yes. Okay.
And a wrestling coach.
Yeah. Oh, he also coaches that squad, huh?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's some different levels to it. I don't think Hayden coaches, but Hayden gets into doing more volunteering. Volunteering is the best thing. But yeah, Hayden's getting to see Henry for the first time tonight, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'll just jump back into kind of just talking about sophomore year.
Oh yeah.
So I know that I'll rant because you're enjoyable to talk to, and trying to enjoy the moment too. We're catching up for the first time in a little bit too. I don't think I've called you since March. Maybe we talked for like an hour or two.
Yeah. Actually, you called me and talked to me for about 30 minutes, maybe a couple months ago, about JD Bergman, maybe being a yeah. But you called me back in March for about 2 hours talking about that bracket.
Oh yeah, people were getting heated.
I was laughing so hard on Facebook, man.
I was coming up with some memes. I was hitting you with some memes that I'm like, I'm going to end some friendships real quick. Anyway, yeah, JD Bergman. My roommate in college was his older brother.
Okay.
Paul, and Paul was my roommate in college, and so still keep in contact with Paul pretty well. And there's even JD. He's a great public figure for the sport of wrestling, or just being a human in general. I do enjoy listening to him talk. I do like some of his I say some as I'm kind of marginalizing. No, I like what he says.
Yeah.
So I was just saying, hey, listen, I also know some people too, and if they're interested, I think it's a good thing for the sport of wrestling. And a couple other things that you do is obviously getting into the minds of the background, into what young people go through the same struggle, but they're maybe sometimes too afraid to ask, like, hey, do you ever get butterflies in your stomach? We struggled with losing weight too. You make it look so easy. It's like, yeah, I make it look easy, but I'm struggling inside. Keep it cool on the surface. No one needs to know I'm dying on the inside. But he's like one of those other people that I feel would work out. But yeah, one of the last times we talked was in March. But yeah, anyway, ranting because we haven't talked for a while. Sophomore year of college, Will Tedder beats me out, and I had very little options. I was a certified 49-pounder, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just go 49. And then coach talked to me and said, what do you think about 174? And I said, well, I don't know. I've always cut weight, and there's something that kind of like clicked in me because Kevin Welsh, you probably met him a few times. He was our assistant coach for a little bit, and something that rings in my mind about my decision to go up to 174, even though I wasn't a 74-pounder. Kevin Welsh was an All-American. The one year he was an All-American, he went up a weight class to 174 because the guy below him was a kid named Josh Koscheck, who was pretty good too. I'm downplaying all these. But Kevin Welsh, All-American, well, being at a weight class he had no business at being at, it wasn't his ideal weight. He goes, listen, if you're focused too much on cutting weight and that's all you're thinking about, not the sport of wrestling, not how you can improve, and not mentally being in it, and at the end of the year thinking about cupcakes and juice boxes and not really thinking about wrestling, then you're at the wrong weight class, or you're cutting weight wrong. But I was like, wow, that's interesting. He goes, one thing I had, it might not have been the strongest. I might have not been, he goes, might not have been the most best technique, but I was there all 3 periods without fatigue. I focused on my conditioning, And I always think about that when I think back. I'll wrestle old, fat, and bald tournaments where I'm like, put me at 220. I don't care. I got skill. I don't care how big these guys are. I'm not cutting weight, right?
Yeah.
And that was a good year for me. I did get thrown around quite a bit, but I always managed to pull out. I think I was a 500 wrestler. Like, I'm talking, this is the worst year I've ever wrestled in my life because I was trying to bulk up. I think I weighed in at nationals. I qualified for nationals again at 174, and
Wow.
it's not easy qualifying for nationals. I weighed in with my shoes and backpack on, and I still weighed 171.
Really?
Wrestling 174. I had a really good tournament, and my first round, I beat a kid that turned around and took third place.
Yeah.
I majored my first round. The kid takes third place from Fort Hays University. I lose in the semis against the kid that took the runner up, and then no, not the semis, the quarters, and then I lost in the blood rounds.
Really?
I've almost been an All-American as a sophomore, and my match, including some others, ushered in the halo rule for wrestling mat. Because you know how the line goes up into the air?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Not only I was dragging my feet, but I was getting the arch back lift up on your waist, and yet now my feet are off the ground, so there's no dragging of the toe.
Yeah.
My blood round, I got hit with that a few times as we were going out of bounds with my turnaround and hit a double or whatever. Time expiring, I'm down by 2. I hit a standing Peterson. My feet come off the mat, and they called us out of bounds. But I went up, back down, and I can't say like woulda, coulda, shoulda, but it was within the rules now. It's no brainer. I'm getting a reversal and winning the match.
Yeah.
But I lost in the blood round, and that was kind of hard to take in. But also, hey, I was up a weight class. I had absolutely nothing to lose. Best time I've ever wrestled is knowing that you're not on top. It is very hard being on top when people want to beat you. If people have no expectation from you, man, it's so nice to be the underdog.
Yeah.
No one expects it from you at all. You expect a lot out of yourself, but man, how cool is it to go against ranked kids? That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to beat the best kid. I love brackets where I go against the number 1 kid early because I know that's the time to beat him, not the finals. It's time to beat him as early in the bracket. So sophomore year, I used a lot of what I knew already, but also I learned a lot from being able to let go and just focus on wrestling, not really care too much about the weight difference. Junior year was I made the lineup. I went 165. I had a couple good close matches with some D1 kids. Not any tournament championships at all that I could think of. I mean, you don't get medals and trophies until you make it to the nationals level. So I don't know what kind of medals or trophies or plaques or T-shirts I got in a college match. But I was doing okay. And first round of nationals when I was a junior, I caught the defending champ that got upset in the previous round. No. He got beat at his region.
Okay.
So I got the defending champ first round, and he beat me. No. I lost to the eventual national champ first round.
Okay.
And then in the wrestle back, I lost to the defending champ.
Gotcha. Wow.
I barbecued.
Yeah.
That was hard. That was a hard one. I think the two losses I had in college, like my sophomore year, I did it really well, but in the nationals, it was really hard my freshman year because when I qualified for nationals, my uncle Tim, who went to Cornell, first state champ from John McClain, first state champ in any sport, he was fighting his last battle with cancer.
Okay.
And when he heard that I qualified for the national tournament, it really hurt when I just didn't place. It's like I thought that I could offer some words of some encouragement that I'm doing well. I heard that he was happy, smiling when he heard that I made the national tournament and to not deliver. And then he didn't hear about me he passed away shortly after. And so that hurt. And my junior year, by barbecuing as a junior, my grandfather was struggling with cancer as well. And I didn't know he wasn't having a bad relapse. And I just didn't know if he'd see me wrestle or hear about me wrestling, and just know that I made it to nationals again to just come up short. Not win any matches, barbecue, be out, not an All-American or anything. So that really hurt too. Not being able to place. And yeah, you lose to 2 good kids, national champ, national runner-up, or defending champ. So it was hard on me. So I refocused obviously for my senior year. In my senior year, I got a new coach. And Mike Weller, I think you know the Weller family pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember like it was yesterday. I mean, he called me up and he let me know that a previous coach was stepping down. I had no idea, and was moving on to another gig, and that he was taking over. And Mike Whaler has coached against me for the last 3 years. It was at W. West Liberty. I say WVU, but West Liberty. And he put together a very stellar squad with the smallest budget you can imagine. And he did very well. And he beat Mercyhurst. How better to get a next coaching gig when I beat your program's previous, So I think if I have what it takes to beat your program, I probably could have enough to, make your program better. But he called me and we had a heart-to-heart, and it was a long conversation. And he told me that he also talked to Don Cummings, which is my other teammate, All-American, and knew that we were leaders on the team. And I never really felt up until that point that I was ever considered a leader. I was a kid that won matches. I'd win, my fair share, and I get a lot of bonus points and whatever. But I never really felt like I was a leader. No one ever said any nice things about me. I never needed it, but it was also reassuring.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Him and I clashed heads. I mean, I had a pretty big ego at the time. He brought me back down to size, but he is definitely, I would say, pretty close to 90% of the reason why All-American is a senior.
Really?
Easily. Yep. He said the right things at the right time in my life and in my journey that I needed to hear. And I didn't really listen to people because I was already successful. I mean, how can you improve upon success? I'm doing better than the rest of my team. You can't tell me nothing. But he told me a lot of things I needed to hear. One, he said he was very encouraged about how I wrestle and how I compete, and he saw me as a competitor. He also made a comment about how I wrestled a lot better when I was a 74-pounder wrestling up. He goes, you wrestled like you were hungry. You had nothing to lose. He goes, your junior year, you were wrestling like you proved something. He's like, you haven't done anything. Are you an All-American? Have you done anything? And I was like, I was honest with myself. I haven't done anything. I really haven't done anything. Yeah, cool. 4 years or 3-year starter, 3-year national qualifier. I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And he had a real come to Jesus moment. And it wasn't over just then. We butted heads a few times throughout the year. And I faced some disciplinary action for violating team rules. No one slaps the team. He took away my captainship for a little bit. And I thought it was indefinite, but it was for a little bit, and I needed that. He brought me down to the right level, and he got me on the straight and narrow. And he kind of says the right things to you at the right time when you need him. But also for someone like me, just the mental aspect of self-assurance.
Yeah.
I needed to be honest with myself. I knew that I wasn't working as hard as I needed to be. I knew that I was making excuses for my shortcomings. I knew I was saying close enough, but not, that's close enough is good enough. But, he made a few promises to me. He's like, we're going to get on that podium. That's your goal. And I had to win some crazy 35 matches to get 100 wins.
Yeah.
I finished that year with 99 wins going into the finals. If I won that would have been a 100 win for me.
Yeah.
And without Mike Whaler and Mike Whaler's guidance and his hard-headedness, obviously the first year that he was a part of the program, if I didn't have him, and nothing against Coach Cipollone, I needed that. I needed someone with his mentality and his vigor in my corner. And my senior year, I had a good go. I was doing very well. Came close to postseason, and I blew out my knee, as they call it. ACL, LCL, meniscus.
Really?
Yeah, and I like slide bys. So imagine your pivot leg is gone. Your pivot leg no longer pivot, and you can't just solely pivot off one. I had good trainers. We did some rehabilitation, but my leg was in a brace, and I had did most of my conditioning on an Airdyne going into regionals. And I lost. I was going in being number one. I was also ranked top 8 in the country, but after I placed horribly and was doing horrible after my knee, I dropped out of the rankings. I was down. I was out. And that really kind of well, this is it. This is the end of it. And I'm like, but still try to have that personal conversation with yourself. I'm like, it's only over when you're done wrestling. You'll have to see a clip because I'll have to show you sometime.
Yeah, please.
But my senior year, when I took second in the nation, I was 2 seconds, 1 second, split second away from not qualifying for state nationals.
Really?
I should have lost in the blood round. I should have lost in the Consi semis. I didn't give up on a move. I didn't give up on getting a takedown. I chain wrestled through, and I would say the most beautiful finish I've ever finished on somebody. It was the luck of scramble. I scrambled wrestled before it was a thing.
Yeah.
And we played wrestle a lot. And that's one thing, like as kids, like you see the little kids just rolling around with each other. They have very good awareness. I just pulled it out because I knew that this is it. There's one more ditch effort, and I can't believe it worked. But I made it for third and fourth. I qualified for nationals, taking third in the region. And the first round, I just wrestled one match at a time.
Yeah.
I told the coach, I'm like, if I win 4 matches, I'm getting 100 wins. I'm going. Right before we left the locker room, before we left for our flight, I said, 96 wins. I'm just gonna have to win a national title, and that's not what I was thinking. I was still thinking one match at a time, but I knew it was. I saw my lineup. I knew it was very possible. I've wrestled a lot of these people, and it was close enough, or I lost by a little. I knew I could win some matches, but one match at a time. And I don't know if I've ever wrestled a better tournament in my life. And Mike will say this too. I don't know if people put together a perfect tournament, but I scored when I needed to score because I didn't have opportunities to score. If my knee doesn't work, I am not hitting my slide by. I am not hitting my high crotch. I'm not hitting my low single. I had absolutely nothing. One thing I did have was good defense. And if you get an opportunity to score, you better score. Yeah. I scored every single time I had the opportunity to score, and I stopped people from scoring on me. I can't say it was stall camp, but if you're not, we're either going to stalemate or no one's scoring. That's it. And I scored quick. I scored early, and when people start coming at you, I just kept scoring points. And I think the hardest match to get through is my second match. The first kid I wrestled ended up being the runner-up for the next year. Yeah. Who my teammate, my practice partner, Josh Shields, beat in the finals, 5-1. I think I majored him 12-3 in the first round. Second round. Barn burner. Like I'm talking, I scored on every shot I shouldn't have scored on. I was hitting finishes, and it's just weird when you wrestle someone from like Minnesota. They cut one way and you're finishing another way. I was like literally 2 steps in front of them, and Mike Whaler worked on me about sitting the corner. When kids sit the corner, yeah. I simply clubbed the far hip, and I was sitting everyone on their butt and scoring points. Like it was like automatic. I've never been, we catch fire in basketball. I was on fire. Literally everything I saw happening, I was 1 step ahead of the finish. And I saw everything as it was so weird to be able to have that type of forecasting. And I was doing very well. And until I made the semifinals, I wrestled a kid named JJ Davis, awesome athlete. Him and I split crazy. Like, I majored him the first time we wrestled. He majored me the second time we wrestled. And then at the regional semifinals, he majored me.
Wow.
And going into the semifinals, man, I hit a fireman's dump I didn't do since I was in 3rd grade. I hit a fireman's dump, and I put him – I shot. He had an underhook, and I'm like, I'm going to continue going through because I couldn't stop. My knee wouldn't let me stop. I had to keep throwing my hip. And so I ended up with 4 points right off the bat. And I held him down, and then I got my riding time. And literally every time he came after me, I got another takedown. I got another shot until the second period. I was on my way to majoring him, and then he kind of got frustrated as I was 2-on-1ing, hanging around, not really the edge of the map, but I didn't need to move forward. I did not walk forward with my knee. I just stood there.
Yeah.
And then he backed up and waited for me to come in. So I took like 2 short steps. He took a far shot from far away. You literally could not time this any better. I sat the corner, and he tried to do a somersault through. I locked up a near side cradle and stepped through the leg and stuck him. Like, really? Literally, yeah. And I'm talking like once he's rolled through, I'm like, when kids do things in practice and you're messing around and they roll right into your game and you have something, I'm just like, I literally, like, I was like so like happy, and my adrenaline went up, and like, there's no way you're breaking this hand grip, boy. You're pinned. He rolls through. I roll through. I post out on my head. I bury my hips. I bury my elbows. Hear that mat slap, and I'm like, not only am I All-American, I just made the national finals. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, there's certain points where you obviously.
I'm gonna hold it while we move.
No, we're not
moving.
Talking. I'll
Danielle?
find. She's telling me that Henry needs to sleep.
He's in the next room.
He'll sleep. He'll fall asleep between
Yeah,
9 and 10. Okay. I'm getting excited.
So yeah,
All
the
right.
national finals.
Yeah. I just the national finals. Been there. I was enjoying the moment of being in it, but it was weird. I think I lost a step in what my previous goal was, and I think I went out there excited to put together a good match. I got in on legs and I wasn't finishing. I got in on shots, I wasn't finishing, and then I try to get off bottom, and he picks my good ankle, and my bad ankle can't move. My bad knee doesn't move. I'm not gonna post up on that, and so like I never really thought about how I would tripod or get out of bottom. But my game plan kind of changed. I mean, I even think the kid I had in the finals was a left leg lead. Like I didn't scope him out. I didn't really look too much into scoping out my opponent before I wrestled him. I usually just watched him wrestle, knew what he was capable of, but I never really cared which leg he'd lead with.
Yeah.
And um I didn't get majored, but it was 8-3, I believe, the final. I mean, I don't want to keep track of my losses. I hardly keep track of names that I've wrestled. I obviously keep track of certain people and where they wrestled for, but I don't try to hold on to who I've lost to or whatever. It was hard to not be able to do moves that I knew I could do. There's certain things I felt like I was good at. I think we've shown you several times the PA ride roll.
Yeah.
There's moves I'm very good at, but if you don't have the right
First
side,
time seeing it was in that practice.
yeah. And these guys out west, they don't know that. They don't know that move, and they don't know that laced ankle. Even if you're trying to ride the bad leg, like that's I need you there. I want you there. I will lace that leg for you.
Yeah.
But a lot of things I wasn't able to get, and I do think that I tried real hard. It just sometimes I feel like I wish that I was in a better state with my body, but I also don't think I would have ever made the national finals if I didn't have a bad knee.
Yeah.
And it's real weird because I minimalized my mistakes, and I had no choice but to score when I needed to score. It's very weird to think that I had to perfect something that I wasn't really that great at, and I had to stop doing my bread and butter moves and switch off to what's now going to work, and I had to hit them with 100% of my vigor.
Yeah.
So I would say I made it there because of a bad knee. I also don't think I could have done as well had I been as healthy. I always want to put the best foot forward. It is what it is. I lose that match 9 times out of 10. But I also wish I would have been able to. I don't care. I'll lose it 100 times, but I really felt like I had more on the mat than I ever wrestled.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And it's hard. But I have no regrets out of that. I would say the one thing I do regret is obviously not learning what I do know now then. I learned an awful lot in college, and I'm sure you did too.
Oh yeah.
From other people. How much? I mean, you had Shop, Port. You had a lot of good people in your practice room. I didn't learn what a tilt was until college.
Really?
I didn't know how to clear a wrist on your tilt until college because that's how I got teched. I had no idea how to get out of a tilt. I mean, how do you stop a tilt if you don't clear the right hand?
Yeah.
And
Right.
and don't get hand control with your own hands. That's stuff that I was kind of I never let go because that's the way I was taught. I was taught to get hand control and stand. Now you'll see me, my hands are up. I don't touch anybody's hands. I stand with my legs. I don't need your hands. You need my hands. I don't need your hands. So those little things are really weird that I've learned and I accelerated at when I got to college. Also, my 2-on-1, I have pretty good Russian. I have a pretty good 2-on-1.
Yes.
I did not learn 2-on-1 until college. My roommate slash co-captain, Don Cummings, taught me that. Taught me how to do it. He's from New York, Onondaga High School, and he had the kind of grip. And this is why I wanted to do the 2-on-1. He had the kind of grip that like he could. I swear he ate like breakfast and then ripped a phone book in half like right before he went to school. He's so stinking strong, and when he grabbed you, you remembered it. He grabbed the right points between your wrist and your elbow.
Yeah.
Just showed me great control out of what you can do out of a 2-on-1. I'm like, it's hard to wrestle somebody that has a good 2-on-1.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to be that. I want to be the guy that's really hard to wrestle. Yeah. So you know how to wrestle somebody that has a high crotch. I mean, geez. But how do you stop somebody that has a good tie? So I really wanted to pursue that, and I learned an awful lot from him too. Riding legs, getting out of legs. I learned the toughness in high school. I think I was a tougher-minded person in high school, and I think I might have been a smarter wrestler in college than I was tougher.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot smarter than I was tougher, for sure.
Wow, well, I
Um,
mean, that is in freaking incredible journey. Just your high school placing sixth to placing second your senior year. Man, I mean, I
yeah,
just sat here and listened for like 90 minutes. It was awesome. So now
yeah.
it is time for our famous speed round. Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you just random questions. Answer. Okay, the first one. Your favorite movie is what?
Ooh. All right, I'm just gonna lump it all in, and I'm gonna stay. If it's a series, I got to go with the one, and the one that I think is the best is A New Hope.
Really?
Star Wars. Yeah. So been a big fan of Star Wars my entire life.
Wow.
So
You
if
are a
there
big
is
fan.
the movie that is the best, it is A New Hope because that is the movie that started. And even reading into the struggle that George Lucas had with creating the movie to begin
Yeah.
with, and the huge empire that he created, mind blowing that that was the movie. So I think as far as cinema and everything, you can base everything off of A New Hope.
Wow. I did not expect that. Your favorite hobby, and you can't say wrestling.
Whew. Hobby. Um, wow. I mean, obviously, if you enjoy it, you want to do. I wouldn't do it for work. Wow. I would say. I mean, I'm close to running. I do enjoy running.
Yeah,
I like tinkering. I like tinkering. Um,
I can
I
tell
like
she's
tinkering.
like quiet down.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Danielle.
Oh, no, she's chiming in. She says I like shopping.
Oh, shopping. Well, yeah, you do always uh dress very nice, always very fashionable.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with that. Shopping.
I like it for the speed round.
Okay, shopping. So, okay, your favorite genre of music?
Ooh. It's sometimes. I mean, every genre has its own time and place. I do like country.
Ah,
Um, I would say I've been enjoying a lot more just because sometimes I don't like I like the message, but I also don't want lyrics.
yeah.
I don't want to know lyrics. I want to have a feeling. I want to hear the music. I do like NF.
Oh man, he's my
Yeah,
favorite rapper now because
yeah.
he sings about stuff that like matters, and it just sits well. Like
What
just
do you think about Tom McDonald?
wait, who?
What do you think about Tom McDonald?
I don't even know who that is, honestly.
Okay, I'll send you some stuff.
Okay,
He's interesting. He's very good.
yeah,
Underground. I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna say country. I don't think there's
country. And your
yeah.
favorite country artist is who?
Whew. I like. Oh, someone will kill me for this. Um, I do like Sam Hunt, but the class act. If you ever go to see him live, I think Brad Paisley is a phenomenal entertainer.
Really, Brad Paisley.
Mm-hmm.
He
If you ever,
what?
you're coming with me to a country concert. I've heard you say stuff this and there, and like you don't get it. You're going with Danielle and I. We're gonna get you a date, or you will leave there with a date at a country concert. I guarantee you'll love it.
My first concert ever was Toby Keith, actually, like maybe age 8 or 9. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my ex girlfriend, maybe summer of 2018, took me to see Dan and Shay and Rascal Flats, and man,
Mm-hmm.
that was brutal.
I did not like Rascal Flats because I went to a bunch for a while, and they just sing songs. Don't be so preachy. And I really didn't like Brooks and Dunn. It was their last rodeo, so I didn't like him. I didn't like
Really,
them live. Toby Keith Toby Keith was wild. He was
I can
very
see.
wild. He had a lot more hits at that time too.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Next question. And I feel like our guests always like this question for some reason. Who is the best coach in sports and why?
I now like me with sports and in general, I like sometimes hearing the positive message that comes out of coaches.
Hmm.
And I can't say that you have to agree all the way across the board, but I'll say one reason why I like one coach and then kind of just back away. And then maybe I'll throw the name out there first and I'll explain why.
Okay.
Um, Bill Belichick.
Every
Okay.
every guest says him.
Okay. I don't know if I caught that on other people, but maybe it was just going through my mind and we answered each other. Here's what I liked about him. It was the media, the portrayal of like, hey, this person's LeBron James and I are the same age. Okay. When
Yeah.
people say people are too old to be competing, yeah, I'm tired of people creating stories out about nothing. And one thing I do enjoy about Belichick is a few interviews he had. I think they had a year where they beat the Seahawks. They weren't expected to win it at all, but they lost a game against like the Dolphins early, and they're like, you guys making the Super Bowl? You making the Super Bowl? He goes, we got Cincinnati next week. They're just worried about what's going on. You guys even gonna make the Super Bowl? Has Tom Brady lost his flair? Have you lost your pizzazz? Like it's like we're getting ready for the next game.
That is so
And it's
true.
very and they're trying to like you guys in the media need to ask the right questions versus ask the dumb stuff. And we are getting ready for you're thinking 16 weeks into the future. We're just trying to get better every week. And I admired him after that and then going forward. You can't argue with success. Maybe there's some shady things that he's done, but I do enjoy that he takes it to a mental game where we're just going week by week. They're a class act. They can be like, yeah, we're repeating 4 times. Come on. No, week by week. And that's why I like Bill Belichick.
Yeah. And I think I would honestly agree that, Bill is probably the best coach in sports. All right, next one, your favorite athlete.
It's going to have to be a wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting that from you.
My favorite right now to watch in general, David Taylor.
Yeah.
He's Burroughs did something to wrestling that hasn't been done, and Taylor's doing something to wrestling that needs to be done. And I just think just seeing him when he wrestled Hatchet in the finals, and he just who runs a clinic on somebody in the National D1 finals and has a gas tank to go, and he can score from any position, and he's the best scrambler, and he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders, and I do enjoy watching the Magic Man wrestle. He's creative, and to think that we've talked about enough of what wrestling is. Wrestling's still evolving, and what he brings to the sport, and a lot of with his like gear and stuff that he brings on, it brings a lot more. I love what he does to the sport, and I love watching him wrestle. I love watching him compete, and I mean, geez, yeah, I can't. If we do 2021 Olympics, if it's gold, I'm probably gonna be one of the happiest dudes. So, David Taylor.
David Taylor. And now here's where the questions get tough, Hudson. Who's the best wrestler in General McLean history?
I'm biased, and you know that. I still feel for single elimination wrestling and being the first to come through, I do still think for the time, if you're the first person to do something in your field and set the bar for other people to follow and continue that throughout life, trying to be a shining light, try to be the inspiration and build the next crew up, build the next wave up to be better than what you were able to put out.
Yeah.
I still feel my dad would be that guy, and I know it's biased, and if people disagree with me, you're welcome to your own opinion. I know that I am nowhere near the top 10. If I can do anything for the sport of wrestling, for General McLean wrestling culture, I will do it. And if my name becomes synonymous with the sport of wrestling at our high school, that's great. But as far as the best, I think you can go with the one that inspires, and I think that my dad would be one person, obviously inspired his kids to follow after something that he really loved too.
Yeah, and talking about Dan Quick, and I obviously have never met him because he passed away in 2012.
Yeah.
Right. So, man, every person that I have ever talking to, Ryan Cook, the Cairo family, the Harrison family, has like just always told me not only was Dan the toughest, in the town, but also the kindest. And I just wish that I had the chance to meet Dan, because I have always heard just such fantastic things about him.
Yeah, He's got a couple liners, and a lot of people leaves a lot of good memories in people's minds. It's funny. I do post stuff that I have older. That's like old interviews and stuff like that. And when my dad was finally interviewed about us boys,
Yeah.
the only thing he says, he goes, because they were talking about like our wrestling culture, and he goes, the best thing I've ever taught him to do was how to lose, and that's all he said. He's like, the best thing about teaching them is I taught him the importance of knowing how to lose. And for a guy that I guess, wants people to be successful, but knowing how to deal with not being successful or falling short of your goals, and to remember at the end of the day, my opponent's a human, I'm a human being, and I need to show more respect. The sport's bigger than me, and I got to be mindful of that. So I think he was very compassionate and a virtuous person, and so that's I'm glad. I really do wish you would you would have loved him. He was going to be around for sure.
Yeah, because I can probably assume that Dan and actually my father Sam were probably kind of the same person. Just very tough on their kids, but also kind. In their own ways,
Yeah.
but it also taught us lessons that I don't think many parents are teaching their kids nowadays. But I'm just biased.
Yeah, he did. I don't know. I'm his kid, so he said some things that I think, obviously being a dad now, it resonates with me deeper.
Mhm.
But my brothers and I, we weren't the guys that were making trouble in high school. Never got into any fights. I don't know if people were
Yeah.
smart enough not to get in fights, because I'm not saying I could throw hands. I just know that if you go to
Throw hands.
if it goes to the ground, you're not going to be in a good position unless one of your boys kicks in. But my dad told us a lot to avoid conflict, but he said, I'll remember this. He says, son, if someone crosses you on your way to your path to God, you were allowed to intervene.
Wow, that is a great freaking quote. I have
Yeah.
never heard that. Wow, that is
Yeah. If someone crosses you on your path to God, you intervene.
wow. Wow, that is deep. Speaks
Yeah.
volumes. All right.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it just, I don't think it was a very confrontational person, but I think there's a lot of people, I'm not saying violence is the answer, that they can run at the mouth without backing it up with facts or at least some substance. And sometimes you need something humbling to get you through.
Yeah.
And my dad's beat up a few people in the world, but he's also picked them up off the ground and took them to church the next Sunday,
Yeah, man.
because it's a humbling experience, and he's there to help them through it.
Wow, yeah. That was probably my favorite part of the podcast so far. So the last two questions, probably the hardest ones. Out of the four Harrison brothers, who was the toughest?
I've seen this kid do things that most people wouldn't do, and I would say, as far as the toughest and hard nosed, Hayden, for sure.
Hayden.
Not even a question. Hayden doesn't take it easy on anybody for any. He'll play volleyball against a niece and nephew, and he doesn't tune it down. He doesn't pay any favors. If you've ever drilled with him, if he ever shows move on you, he does not show anything half speed, and he doesn't take it easy on you just because you're older. I do not like drilling moves with him still. He goes all in. He's all out. He's done things on fractured femurs that he's lied about injuries so he can continue to compete. If you knew what he was going through inside, you probably would have hung it up a long time ago. But Hayden is mentally tough beyond comparison. Yeah, definitely a hard-nosed kid. And out of us, Hayden takes it.
And then the hardest question, the last one. Out of the four Harrison brothers, who's the best looking?
I would say whoever's actually married out of all the boys. I would say, yeah, if you were good enough to find someone that was moderately to very attractive, which I find my wife to be extremely attractive, I would say you did pretty well for yourself. If you're batting zeros, no. I don't know. The older I get, the better I take care of myself, because I only have this body for so long, and I will enjoy it when it's old and leathery. But Hayden, you know what? No. I think it all comes down to who still has hair on their head. Okay, I'm not thinning. I'm okay.
Definitely you, for sure.
If bald's beautiful, all three of them.
So there it is. It's Hudson then.
Oh yeah, I'll take it, and I'll do a face off like Zoolander. We'll do a blue off, you know.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Oh yeah. What's that called? Blue steel, right? Like the.
Yeah, blue steel where they do the runway and walk off, and then he hits the blue steel.
That's hilarious. So Hudson, the last segment of the podcast. Obviously, you know our country's struggling right now. So me being the podcast host, I always like ending with a good positive message from our guests. So just end it, just a good, positive, inspiring message for not only me, but you know our fans, our just fans of the podcast.
Yeah, we have some troubling times, and it's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of split and divide. And it's very weird when we go from like having the Olympics, where the Olympics were designed or sports were designed to bring people together, especially after the Civil War. That's when baseball started, right? America's pastime is the only thing that brought America back together is baseball. So baseball, national sports, were designed to bring the country back together after the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And very interesting when it comes to kneeling and stuff during the national anthem. It's supposed to unite us. We should find something that's common ground. It's funny because when the Olympics comes around, we all cheer for the Americans, right?
Yeah.
I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your background is. You know, I'm cheering for Team USA. I don't care. And at the end of the day, if some outsider kills an American, we get upset because they kill an American. I don't know where we keep forgetting that we're all under the same country. We're all in the same, whether or not you agree with it or not, we're all in this together. And worldly too, we all have to get together and find a way to be humans. I mean, this could be the year in history when people look back to 2020, like people literally hated each other for everything, and there was no one that got a pass on anything. So we're only here for a little bit. Let's try to be good people. To anybody else out there that's uncertain about the future, find ways to stay in shape. It sucks without sports, but do something productive, do something positive with yourself, and hopefully it's wrestling.
Yeah, so I am going to end it with that. Hopefully it's wrestling. So yeah, that is it for our episode with Hudson Harrison, aka Hudson Harrison, a national finalist wrestler, a awesome person, a great human being. Thank you for coming on.
All right, I appreciate being here. I can't wait for your next couple guests.
Oh yeah, I am very excited too. Thanks, Hudson.
Well, you take care. You let me know when you're in town. You're gonna have to stop by, and Henry's gonna have to meet you for real.
Deal.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.